Hey guys, welcome to another week. Another week's gone, another 168 exciting hours. I hope that you've had a great week, and I hope that you've done some amazing things with IELTS, the reading, the writing, the listening. But not only that, I hope that you've had a good week. I hope that something special has happened for you and that you're feeling better about what's going to happen. Monday is just around the corner for most people. And, well, I hope you're sitting there and you're comfortable. Now, you may have seen something slightly strange that happened earlier this evening. We tried to do the broadcast earlier, and the internet was having a terrible day. It just wasn't happy at all. We couldn't get a good, nice, stable connection. We tried connecting again and again and again. And we could only figure it out. Maybe it's something to do with Valentine's Day. Yep, believe it or not, it's another year, ladies and gentlemen. It's another 365 days, and in front of us we have Valentine's Day. So, I have to say Happy Valentine's Day to you all. Okay. It's such an important time. It's a time where girlfriends say to boyfriends and boyfriends say to girlfriends, you know, how special the week, how special the month and the year has been. And I want to say a big shout out to my little boy, Nathan. You know, Happy Valentine's Day, darling, my little monkey, I love you. And to my wife, who's also, well, she's probably sleeping right now, but Happy Valentine's Day. And in about a month's time, we're going to get a really special gift. I'm going to be a father again. I'm going to have a little girl this time, and you know, we just couldn't wish for a happier gift. This is the best thing in the world. Okay, so what's connected to this? We've also during the week received quite a few emails and quite a few messages, and you know, all of it's positive. You know, we are loving what we're hearing, and we're loving what we're reading on the comments, on the chats, on the websites, and all these other things. Okay, and we just want to say thank you, really, guys. Thank you very much. Okay, it's good to hear this. Okay, we do try to reply to just about every email we get, every message we get, anything like this. But because it's been a very busy week for us, we're going to make sure the baby's okay. Okay, and make sure that everything is fine. And we're looking forward to our delivery of this new little angel in about a month's time or so. So if you haven't received a reply from us, then please accept our apologies. Really sorry. It's not our fault. It's just the way it's happened. We do try to help everybody who asks us. That's a very important part of the policy of the school. So if you're still waiting for a reply, be patient. We will get back to you. Okay, maybe not during the next hour and a half, because we're, well, broadcasting. But we know we attempt to reply as quickly as possible. So be patient if you can. Thanks very much. Thanks. So my name is Andy. You may know me, you may not. I'm the director of a school called Cambridge EAP. We're based actually in Cambridge, and our purpose is to help students in very specialised areas of English. Specialised such as the IELTS exam, which is what we're talking about today, but also in areas like a CAE, the FCE, the CPE exams. These are big exams. We help a lot of masters, PhD students as they, you know, work on their coursework. We help people do exams and English exams to help with their migration, immigration purposes. So basically, you know, if it's something specialised in English that you want some really professional, some really good help for, then don't be frightened to ask us. Okay, we tend not to do general English because there are so many schools already that do this very well. However, if you do have any questions about something, I say a bit more generally related, then you know, ask us anyway. We can only help as best we can. Okay. And our purpose is to make sure that you get the best and most honest advice possible. Now, this kind of is very important because there is a lot of things out there on the internet. There's lots of model answers and there's lots of advice. And yes, there are other YouTube channels. Hey guys, other YouTube channels. And they all have some great advice. But it's really quite hard to know, well, what's the best advice? What's the most appropriate? What's the most honest? Okay, what's the most clear? Because quite often it can be very confusing, especially the writing. So that's what we're going to do here. That's what we do here using this YouTube channel. Okay. If you're watching now, and I can see what a few people who've already assigned it. So guys, welcome, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Or, you know, maybe you should be asleep, but thanks very much for coming. I can see you guys, hi. Okay. You know, as it is live, please ask any comments, please leave questions with us during the chat. As it is happening live, we can only try to answer those honestly as we can during the chat. If you have any questions, if there are any problems, then yep, also just let us know. We can do what we can. Okay. This is the second time I've done this evening. Hopefully this time will be more successful. So for those who are watching, please keep your fingers crossed. Please keep your fingers crossed. Okay. Hope that the internet is going to be nice to us today. We can only assume that maybe it's failing because so many people are sending their little they're doing their shopping online, getting their chocolates and their roses and their champagne and all that lovely, sexy underwear for people, for their partners. So maybe that's the reason why we've had so many problems. Okay. So far, we have in this series of our YouTube videos, we focused on the academic part of the IELTS exam. So that's the writing task 1, the writing task 2. In terms of writing task 2, we've looked at the different types of questions that come up. We've looked at the structures that we see and how to structure and organize our answer. We've looked at the introductions, how to do a good introduction for the agree-disagree style question. We focus on this one because the majority of questions that you'll face in the exam will be the agree-disagree, although we tend to say the thesis question type. And we've also looked at in the show last week, body paragraphs, what's a good body paragraph, coherency, making sure that one paragraph only has one idea. Okay. And in terms of writing task 1, we've looked at the data tasks, so the bar charts, line chart, pie chart, and table. We've actually given you some advice about how to structure a great, simple, direct introduction, which hopefully you can write in about 1 minute or so. We've looked at a chart with time, and that was, I believe, a line chart. How to organize it, how to structure, how to identify features, how to write those features. And also we looked at charts without time, and that was a pie chart. How we focus paragraphs on similarities and differences. Okay, so we're going through what I would argue are the more important, I wouldn't say basic or simple, but the more fundamental skills that you need to get past this test. Okay, so hopefully if any of that's been useful, then like the videos, subscribe, leave comments, ask questions. We check every day, many times. Okay, it's for you. It's for you to watch, and it's for you to get something from. Okay, we believe that good advice should be available for everybody, so that's what we're doing here. Okay. This YouTube channel, it's our home, and this YouTube channel is our home, and and you're welcome to it. So come in, get a nice glass of coffee or tea or juice or water and something to eat. Put your feet up and relax for the next hour or so, and take your shoes off and just relax. You know, share your thoughts, and if we can help, we will. Okay. Just had a quick message from a person called Amir, okay, and he's asked actually it's a really good question. I never thought of this question. So let's ask this question now, Amir. He asked, this person is asking about whether it's okay to use British or American spelling in the writing, and the answer is it doesn't matter. You can use just American spelling or you can use just British spelling. We don't mind either one, okay. But I think it's important to say that if you choose to spell the word in the British way, a very popular one is the word colour, so C-O-L-O-U-R, then that's the way you always spell the word in your writing. So don't say C-O-L-O-U-R one time and then C-O-L-O-R the next time, and because the examiner's going to think that's a bit strange. We, in theory, have only one lexical resource. Now, lexical resource actually means dictionary, basically. It's a very high-tech, posh way of saying it. But we only have one of these dictionaries in our mind. So either we spell it this way, the American spelling, C-O-L-O-R, or the European, British, C-O-L-O-U-R. It doesn't matter. The main point is be consistent, okay, in that spelling. And if either variations is spelled correctly, then, well, it's a good job. Make sure you spell it correctly, and that's the only thing we care about. Okay, guys? So, Amir, hopefully that answers your question, but great to ask it. Often simple things matter very much. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some help. Right, guys, so what about today? Well, today we've actually, today we're actually going to look at something that doesn't happen so often in the IELTS writing test, but it does happen enough. It happens enough for me to spend almost a week or so just trying to plan and get out the right ideas, think about how best to present it to you guys watching on the internet now. Okay, and we're going to be looking at processes. Okay, this word, just here, process. Now, so processes actually, okay, so Amir, you're welcome, love you, thanks for watching the show, okay, stay tuned for more. Now, back to the point, process, yeah, okay, processes. So we had a lot of requests about processes because they do happen from time to time. In 1 year, approximately 1 year of the writing task 1s, task 2s, we would say about 20 to 30% of the writing task 1s are actually based on processes. So they don't happen very much, which is great news. But when they do happen, it's either I love it, I love processes, or I hate processes. It's one thing or the other. It's a love-hate relationship. Okay, so the question is, well, why do people have this feeling about it? Well, from our experience, there tends to be four kind of problem areas that people get in their process writing. So we're going to look at those, and we're going to go through an example. We're going to actually explain many points of the example and show us where we can actually help and find some answers to those questions. Okay, so problem areas. Well, the first one is quite an important one, and this is the active or passive tense. Okay, so active or passive tense, this one actually matters a lot because process writing, if somebody here say Awali Chofu, my apologies if my pronunciation is bad, but it is a good question to ask. From experience, for anybody who's watching, let's give you some advice, just a simple advice. You may spend a lot of time focusing on learning complex grammar or complex vocabulary. Those things matter. But often examiners are after good, clear, maybe sometimes simple language. And this means the fundamentals. So whether we just use the American spelling or the British, that's okay, we don't mind. But as long as we're consistent, we don't change. If we keep changing from one type of spelling to the other, then, well, it gives the examiner a headache. And trust me, you really don't want the examiner reading your writing and a headache at the same time. It's not good, really not good. Okay, right, back onto the processes. Okay, guys, so I'll check back in the chat a bit later to see what other questions are coming up. I won't ignore anybody, I promise that. So, active tense or passive tense, well, that's a big one. Now, for the data tasks like the line chart and the pie chart, whatever, we don't really use passive tense very much. It tends to be very much active tense. Maybe a few variations of that tense, but yeah, generally it's just, active tense. But processes, we definitely have to use passive tense, which we're going to go through the basics in a moment. Okay. Another problem that people go through is length. Now this may be a bit of a strange one, but 150 words or well, of course, or more, that matters. As a teacher in the classroom, both here where I am at the moment, but also back in Cambridge where we were based, when we do this kind of process writing, the first few times that students do it in the classroom, they find it really, really hard to get over 150 words. And we're going to look at this in much more detail later. But it's definitely a problem area. And as we know, for all writing task 1s, we have to make sure that we do really get at that minimum number of words. Okay, there are many reasons to bring our score down, but making one of them being too short, that's a big one. That's really a big one. Okay, right. So active tense or passive tense, problem. The length, making sure it's long enough, problem. Another one which is really important is structure and organization. Luckily, this one is actually not the biggest problem, because with a process, usually how we organize it is actually quite obvious. It takes a bit of practice, of course. It's not like the charts, the data charts, where we have so many different choices to make, and we're always worried about, is this the right place? Is that the right place to actually put a new paragraph or not? But the key point here for process writing is that, well, yes, we must still have paragraphs. We really shouldn't write it in just one long paragraph. We should put it into sections, put it into paragraphs, because that concept and language of one paragraph being one idea, 2 paragraphs, 2 ideas, and so on. Okay. The last problem is about this one. In process writing, we have to use the vocabulary given. Of course we do, because quite often these processes are actually things that maybe we've never thought about before. But well, the problem is that we have to use the vocabulary given. We can't, let's say this, so we say carbon copy it. Now carbon copy is an expression that means an exact copy. We just can't exactly copy. We can't exactly copy, and here we're more concerned about the grammar. Of course, the words we can use again because the process is, well, it's so unique. But the vocabulary, we've got to try and do a few things to it to change it around a bit, just to make sure that, just to show the examiner we can do it. Remember your processes, your writing task 1s, your task 2s, your writing task, everything like this, the bar charts. It's all really a demonstration. It's a communication test. We see something, we've got to communicate what it is on paper, and we need to show that we understand it. Understanding matters, especially for those who are going on to higher education studies, the masters and the PhDs. This manipulating and changing around to the grammar is a really important skill to have, and it's definitely here in writing task 1. In fact, it's so important, I'm actually mentioning it and talking about it in today's session, because it matters, guys. Listen, it matters. Don't carbon copy exactly what the grammar is. You've got to change it around a bit. Okay. So, the 4 points: the tenses, the length, the structure, and the vocabulary. These are the problems that we have to deal with. Well, let's move on to the first area, okay? And let's talk about this one. So, first question we have is, well, passive, okay, passive tense or active tense, or even more importantly, well, why do we have passive and active in the first place? Well, what's the point? Well, for me to best explain the situation, let's introduce you to my terrible, absolutely OMG, gosh, drawing habits. Okay, so let's just do this. Okay, I will try to make it as beautiful as possible, but okay, yeah, that works. Okay, I think actually the first time I did this was actually a bit better, so sorry. Okay, it's a sheep. If you can't recognize it, it's a sheep, okay, and it's a happy sheep because nothing bad is going to happen to the sheep. We have here, okay, so we have a box, and the box has a question mark, and at the end of the box, what do we have? It's not food, okay, it's, see, the sheep is still happy. We have here a sweater, okay. Now, in the US, you would say sweater. In the UK, we say jumper. Not quite sure why we say jumper. Maybe because the sheep used to jump before. If you have any ideas, let me know. I would like to know why it's called a jumper. But it's a very simple process where we have a sheep, something happens to the sheep, and then we have a sweater or a jumper. And we need some vocabulary, and we call this wool, okay. It's not hair, it's actually fur. So it's the fur that actually sticks onto the animal's skin. So, if we try to write this process, if we actually try to put it down on paper, we would have to do something like this. So we have this strange game machine, and then we say, let's say, turns the jumper. I'll use the British this time. I used the American the first time. Jumper. So it turns the whatever is right, it turns the, let's hit the wool. Let's hit the wool into a jumper, into a jumper. Now, sentence is fine. It's a simple sentence, but it's a good sentence. The problem with this sentence is the first word, that. Does anybody know what that is? Is it magic? Harry Potter? No. Is it somebody, is it like a man or woman just quickly missing something? We don't know. It could be a machine. But the problem is we don't know this. And because of this knowledge, because whatever the name of that machine is, we don't know what it is. We can't write it. But that's, okay, that's fine. This is the problem where we deal with active tense. So this is, okay, so this is our active tense sentence. Active. Okay. This thing here, the subject, we don't know what it is. And if we don't know what it is, we can't write it. But as I said, that's fine. Now, why is it fine? Because there's a solution to the problem. And the solution, as we're talking about tenses, is clearly the tense itself. Okay. If we wanted to write the sentence another way, we could actually say this. We could say that the wool is turned into a jumper. Like this. So wool is turned into a jumper. Okay. So, and that's our solution. So suddenly this thing here, that question mark, poof, it's gone. Doesn't matter. It never mattered. Okay. Instead we have a solution just here. Is turned. Okay, just there. Now this is the passive tense. This is the passive structure. Okay. And suddenly the machine, that box that buys something, I can write it in. Okay, so you just see where it would be. Let's go to black and make it with a small pen. Okay, so let's put in brackets by the box, the question mark, which would go in here. We actually don't need it. And this is the great thing about passive tense. If we're not sure about something, then we can actually change it around, use the passive tense, and suddenly it's no longer a problem. So passive tense is very, very, very important. If you're going to the UK, if your studies will take you there, or probably to Australia as well, then we'd like to see passive tense in our papers. So it has a very, very important part of writing task 2. And if there's enough questions, if there's enough demand, then yeah, we will certainly do a lesson maybe in the future, writing task 2, about the different tenses and the grammar structures that we could be using in writing task 2. It does matter. Okay. The main point here is that because this process is a process that you don't know about, you don't have to be an expert about it. So relax, you know. Take a deep breath. We know, the examiners, the designers, they know that you're not an expert in this process. So they're hoping that you're going to use the passive tense as a way of getting around these problems of these names of these machines we don't know. Okay? So in technical terms, if you want to look at active tense and passive tense, we have this thing called, it's called the doer, which is a very, very weird name, the doer. Some grammar books will actually say it's called an agent. But in this case, the agent or the doer is actually unknown. We don't know what it is. Okay, so this thing here, the box with the question mark, this is the agent, this is the doer. What is it? No idea. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. Seriously, it doesn't matter at all. So, using the passive tense is a very, very useful skill to have, and it's one that's very, very important inside, you know, this kind of writing. So this is passive tense here. Passive, okay. Now, so that's the passive tense. Okay, so I just want to quickly talk about how to make the passive tense, okay, because there are grammar books out there, and I really hope that you check these grammar books and kind of actually get some details about it. But the passive tense is actually made of 2 parts. So let's give it a quick title. So this is called construction. Construction is how we make a tense, and construction is actually 2 parts. So the 2 parts here, firstly we have the verb to be. To be or not to be, that is the question. Shakespeare's cool. and we have what's called a PP. Okay, now PP actually means past participle. And you're thinking, well, what is a past participle? Well, when we have a verb actually has there's actually three versions of the verb. So if we go for the verb eat, so we could say, so to eat, in the past simple, that will become ate, and that will become eaten, like this. Okay, and this is the past participle. It's the third version of the verb. Okay, now the tricky thing here is that some of these verbs are called irregular verbs, and an irregular verb, any good Cambridge or Oxford or Webster's or Macmillan dictionary will tell you this. But irregular verbs change. There's no pattern to it, which is a little bit of bad news. Okay, we have here a regular verb. Let's go for this one here. No, it's a regular. Okay, so a regular verb would be, for example, okay, to turn, and then turned, ed, which is the past simple, and then turned again for the past participle. And this verb is called a regular verb. Okay, so irregular and regular verbs. Okay, but it's this past participle. It's this version of the verb here that we need to use. Okay, so be careful. Make sure that when you're learning new vocabulary, you're actually learning the past participles of any new verbs that come up. They may become useful. Now, the last thing to talk about in terms of the grammar, because I don't want to focus on grammar too much, there's many more exciting things to do. Okay, is actually time. The verb to be here. The verb to be in a passive process is going to be either is something or are something. Now the reason is that when it comes to process writing, some good news here for those who worry about grammar is that it's always present tense. So this is the reason being is that when you see a process, they're not going to say back in 1999 or in 2005 or wherever. It's going to be the present tense. So you've got a choice of is or are when you actually can make the passive tense. Okay. So here the world is turned, for example, present tense. That being said, be careful. Sometimes, only sometimes, like once or twice, we've actually seen a process, a writing task 1, where they have a process in the past and a process in the present. And you have to write about the process and also how it's changed. So if you see time, something before now in a process, then yes, of course, you have to use the past simple, okay? The past tenses. But this doesn't happen. It's very, very, very unusual, okay? So, passive tense, very useful, very important, okay? If you're not sure about it, then get into a dictionary to learn about it. Okay. Here at Cambridge EAP, we do grammar classes, and kind of an achievement. I think our grammar class is actually quite exciting and interesting. But whatever way you learn grammar, make sure you know about the passive tense. Without it, your process writing, I'm sorry to say, guys, you just can't do it. Okay. So, know it. Make sure you know it. Okay. And you have any questions, of course, ask in the chat. We'll do everything we can. Right, so that's the first thing done. That's the grammar, the passive or the active tense. Okay. We have the other problems. We have the length, making sure we're over 150 words. We have the structure, the organization, how many paragraphs do we do? And also, how do we use the vocabulary given? And that's the biggest one. How do we avoid repeating things so often? Okay. Well, the best way to deal about those is to look at a model answer. And we love model answers. Now, I need to talk about model answers very, very quickly and very briefly. You have to be very, very careful with those model answers because they probably are very good writings to look at, and I'm sure that they can help you a lot. But at the same time, be careful with model answers. We have a policy here at Cambridge EAP that we don't actually give any model answers unless we have a teacher to explain it, because there may be small things, small details that the candidate could not be aware of, and we don't want them to copy things without understanding. Model answers are incredible things, and if they're written really well, then they can be very, very, very useful. And the reason I mention this is that we've had a few emails asking for model answers. I'm sorry, we can't give model answers unless we've got a teacher to explain it, or in this case, you watch a YouTube video where we've got it actually happening. So just be careful about this. We're not saying no because we're mean people. We do a lot, we try as much as possible. But model answers are great if there's somebody to explain how it works and why it works. The theory, at least the idea, is that you should be able to read a model answer and have some questions. Why did they make this choice? Why did they write it that way? What's the meaning of this? What's the purpose of that? So if you're reading a model answer, ask those questions to yourself, ask those questions to a teacher, okay, get some help, because they can be very useful, but we want to make sure that you get the right kind of help from it. That's fine in this one because we're going to look at a model answer to actually help write this. And well, I had a thought about what kind of model answer can we do? It's close to Valentine's Day. Guys, don't forget. Okay, Valentine's Day. And ladies, don't forget. Valentine's Day. We could do a process about flowers. No, thank you. We could do a process about champagne. Champagne is great, Valentine's Day. Or what about a process about dating, how to date somebody? Well, often simple things are better. And I think maybe the best process that we could talk about is chocolate. Valentine's Day, chocolate, chocolate, Valentine's Day. It's almost like they're synonyms. They mean the same thing. Wow, how cool is that? So let's talk about process, about chocolate. Okay. And here we have one we've made earlier. So let's just put it onto the whiteboard now. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Okay, right. And this, just put it over one side, I need some space. Right. So here we have, this is a process. Okay, just there. It says the illustrations below show how chocolate is produced. It doesn't show how you eat it or how you give it to your, your lovers on Valentine's Day. Well, I'm pretty sure you can figure that out. The interesting thing about a process is this, the instructions. Now, if you've seen my videos before, or maybe you've actually seen them in a Cambridge book or other websites, the instructions never change. They're always the same instructions. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. It's always the same thing. But I need to stress one word this time, and it's the word here, reporting. Reporting means very simple in the process. And I'll put it here, so hopefully you guys will actually understand it. So if you can't see it, don't write it. Underline it twice, it's that important. If you can't see it, don't write it. It doesn't matter whether it's a bar chart, a line chart, or a process. Your job is reporting, describing what you see. Don't add anything, and I don't mean anything, that you don't know for sure you can see in here. Now, this may sound a bit limiting, and in some ways it is, but it also means that you don't need any specialist knowledge. You may be, I don't know, you could be an expert chocolate grower. Or more likely, like myself and my wife and a lot of people I know, expert chocolate eaters. We love chocolate. Dark chocolate, thank you. If anybody wants to send me dark chocolate for Valentine's Day, I'll put my address, send it to me, be so happy. It doesn't matter though, because the point is, in a process, you can have all the knowledge in the world. You are only allowed to write what you see in the pictures. That's it, nothing else. If you start to add something that you may know as specialist knowledge, then the examiner's going to say, well, where did that come from? You're not reporting. It may be true, but you're not allowed to do it. Okay. So hopefully this is some good news. It means that you don't have to spend half an hour or a few days reading and learning about a process of making chocolate on Wikipedia or some other website. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Okay. So relax. Follow the instructions and remember this. If you can't see it, don't write it. If you see it, write it. Don't see it, don't write it. Nope, 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 nope. Okay. Write it in your hand if you want to remember. I cannot write what I cannot see. Okay, really matters. So, we have here a process. Let's make it a bit larger because we're going to be spending some time on this. Okay, we see that we have 10 steps. 10 steps, 1 to 10 is good news. Now, not always do we get 10 steps. Often a process could have 8 steps, some have 6, some even have less, okay? But hopefully, if you follow some of the advice we're giving tonight, or this morning, or this afternoon, depends what you're watching, then it shouldn't be a problem, okay? But we have our 10 steps here. In our first step, we have what are called these pods. So these pods are growing on trees, and the trees are in South America, Africa, Indonesia. Then we see here the pods have been taken off the tree, they've been harvested, white cocoa beans. Then they're put into a box, and the box has the white cocoa beans. Then in the fourth step, we have this other shape, and they're put under the sun to make them dry. After that, we find they're actually put into large sacks, and somebody's doing this. The next step we have here is that they are taken by a train or a lorry to some location. Next step, step 7. We actually are we actually arrive at the factory where clearly lots of work happens. Then they are roasted at a very high temperature, about 350 degrees, yeah. And then they're crushed. We can see that the outer shell is removed. And finally, there's the inner parts, these parts here, are squashed, and the juice that comes out is actually the chocolate. How cool is that? How did they ever figure that out? I always wondered where that came from. It's the same as, how did we know? When did we discover we could drink milk? Must have been a very strange relationship between a human and a cow. Moving on. Organisation. When we organise into our process into paragraphs, it must be a logical paragraph. And if I'm looking at these first steps, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm having a guess that whatever's happening is actually happening outside. Okay? So for pictures here, 1 to 6, outside. And then they arrive at the factory, and we can see in the factory that more things happen to those beans. So I would say here that these are happening inside somewhere, another location. So here, pictures here, 7 through to 10. And that means we put a line in here, and this becomes body paragraph 1. And this one becomes body paragraph 2. Okay. Now, simple things. Of course it is simple things. But simple things, as I've said before with the American or the British spelling, simple things can make a big difference. And here is definitely a good example. When we do a process writing, whatever you do, don't mix them up. Step number 1 is always the first. So we always start with step number 1, and we finish with step number, here's the last one. This is where we finish. Please, whatever you do with your processes, don't mix them around at all, or don't try to do something funny or complicated. Keep it simple. We start at the start and we finish at the finish. Okay, and what we're doing here by organizing the paragraphs is that we're showing understanding, and that's a good thing that examiners like to see. Showing understanding is a very key point. Showing understanding, okay? Okay, right, okay, right, okay, so I've got an old student. Hi Anita, lovely to see you, but it's a bit late, okay, but hopefully you got a nice warm cup of tea or coffee there. Okay, so lovely to see you. Okay, right, showing understanding is really important. Okay, so simple things can make a big impression on what the examiner sees. Okay, so organization in process, not always the easiest, but spend a few minutes actually before you do your writing and actually put them into steps. Now, in a previous video, I would have mentioned these things to you. There's actually 4 things that matter. Okay, and I'll just quickly run through them again for those who maybe have missed it. Okay, why have you missed it? Watch my videos. T, O, W, and F. Okay, T meaning think. O means organize. W means write. And F doesn't mean fall asleep or forget about it or fly away. It means fix, which means we fix our mistakes, our grammar mistakes. We're looking at the first two steps, thinking, organizing. Now, this is what we're doing right now. We're thinking and we're organizing. We read through everything. We made sure we've got some paragraphs here. And we should spend maybe about 4 minutes thinking and organizing. Do all of this now, because later when you're writing, you should just be writing. That's it, nothing more. Okay, so think about what you're doing, organize into paragraphs, and then the writing about 10, 11, 12 minutes. If you practice matters. And fix means those mistakes. You're not going to see every single mistake in the world. That's okay, don't worry about it. But if you see some mistakes, that's going to make a difference between 5.5 and a 6, 6.5 and a 7. Sorry, pardon me, everything matters. Everything matters at all. Okay, right, so on to the main part. Right, so remember, we have here all this vocabulary, and I said before, remember to use all the vocabulary given to you. Okay, why does this matter? Partly, it's a very specialized process, and if we miss out the vocabulary, we may be missing out an important idea. Secondly, as some of you may already know, doing 150 words or more is a challenge. So if you miss out a word, that also will reduce. The main point I think to talk about here is that processes are quite specialized. They're not messing around. The processes that you get in IELTS may be simple versions of what we see at universities, but they're still real things. So if we drop out some vocabulary, the examiner can say, well, why did you do that? Do you know if it's important or not important? And that's a really hard thing to answer. So, very important, put it here, so use all the vocabulary given. So put it in big capital letters. Use all the vocabulary, okay? Don't forget, okay? Use every word, okay? So organization is done. We've got 2 paragraphs. We know that we need to do paragraphs so we show our understanding. And lastly, we need that we should show all of our vocabulary as well. So that's all a good thing, that all matters. Okay. Right, onwards, what's next? Well, let's look at the examples, because it's actually inside these pictures that we find that we have the opportunity to write many more words. And you'll be surprised, well, hopefully you'll be surprised how many words that you can actually write. Okay, so let's move on. So we're going to zoom out and we're going to go to the first picture. Okay, so this one here. Okay, hopefully you can see it at all. Yep, good. So what do we know about this picture? Well, we know a few things about it. Okay, we know that it's in cacao trees. Okay, and is it one tree or many? Is it going to be many trees? So already we know that we can change it. We can actually say cacao trees. We add the S to show the examiner that we're talking about many trees, not just one. Okay. Now we have ripe red pods. Let's talk about this for a moment. So ripe red pods. Ripe red pods. We have to change this. We can't copy that phrase. But the question is, well, how do we change it? What can we do? Well, this is where our grammar, and I'm sorry to say, this is where our grammar actually comes into things a bit more. Okay, so grammar is an important point. Okay, we know that, okay, so let's go through. We know that pods is a noun. So let's put a noun here. Okay, what becomes before a noun? A noun here is going to be an adjective. And red, okay, and before an adjective we could have either an adjective or an adverb. Now adverbs usually have ly. It has, quickly, beautifully, wonderfully, lovely. Okay guys, Valentine's words, remember, lovely Valentine's words. But here it's ripe, so it's an adjective as well. So how do we change it? Well, we do this. So let's put the word pods at the very beginning. And then we're going to say pods. Well, what about pods? We can say pods, so which are, so ripe and red. Or we could say the red pods, so which, oh dear, spelling mistake, go back. So which are ripe, okay? Or we can say, so ripe pods, so which are, okay, so say red in color. All of these are fine. And we're using the same words as the question. So let's circle these words, okay? So we have words like pods, okay, red and ripe, red pods, ripe, white pods, which are red, okay? We're using the same language, and this is called a grammatical paraphrase. We've changed the grammar around, but we haven't actually changed the words, because we shouldn't change the words. If you change those words, you may change the meaning, and if you change the meaning, the examiner's going to go, aha, you don't understand. This is something that we don't want the examiner to know. So, change the grammar but not the words. And here we're demonstrating this one, which are, and this is called a relative clause. Relative clauses are a great way of adding information to something. And in this case, we're adding this information, ripe and red, to the noun pods. And we show the examiner that we can do this. Okay? So relative clauses are really very important. We have other things in that picture. So, what else? We are told about they're grown in South America, Africa, and Indonesia. What can we say about this? We can't change the word South America. We can't change Africa. We can't change Indonesia. They're names of places. We don't change this. But we can say that these are areas. Or we can say these are regions. Or we can even say these are places. Okay, so areas, regions, places, any of those things are fine. Okay, so we're showing that we understand. Okay, so I think we have enough information here to actually write a sentence. And let's have a look. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So great. So we have 10 words. So if we are to write this sentence, how many words do you think we're going to get? Just 10? Well, hopefully more than that. Hopefully much more than this. Okay, so let me show you an example sentence for this one. And we can say that this begins. Okay, when. So ripe pods. Okay, so ripe pods. Okay, so which are red in color. Okay, so we say the word here, grown. So grown. So on, and the name of the tree, so cacao trees. So C-A-C-A-O. I always get that spelling wrong. Hey, I'm a teacher as well. Cacao trees. Okay, what about this cacao trees? Okay, so another one is that are. So that are grown. Okay, so that are grown on cacao trees that are grown. So we've got the word grown twice. And this is going to be a problem. So we can't say grown 2 times. So I'm going to change the first one. I'm going to change it to another word. So, and I'm going to say the word found. That I found on, okay, so there you go, solution solved. Easy peasy. And I've grown, okay, in, so areas, such as, and we have the locations, such as South America, and where's it, okay, Africa, and Indonesia. So that's our new sentence. Okay, so remember we had 10 words. How many words do we have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 26 words. So that's not bad. I'm so happy I can do a smiley face. Yay! 26 words. So what have we done here? Well, the first thing we can do, okay, when we do a writing task one like this, okay, and we're getting this, and it's actually the ripe red pods that is my main point for this picture. We can do what's called a grammatical paraphrase. We are paraphrasing, we are keeping the same idea, and in this time we're keeping the same words, but we're changing the grammar around because we can, and we want to show the examiner we can do this. So, grammatical paraphrase. This is one way that we can actually get more information from a picture. Okay? And like I said to you before, don't change the vocabulary. Because if you change the vocabulary, you may change the idea. And you change the idea, basically and unfortunately, you're just going to show the examiner that there's something you don't understand. We don't want to do this. Okay, so don't change the vocabulary. A grammatical paraphrase is great, and if you could please practice this. So when you see these expressions in pictures, ask yourself, what's a noun, what's an adjective, what's an adverb? Can I use those words in another way? How can I rearrange them? Okay, and definitely practice this. The more you practice this, the better you become, and it's a great skill to have, not just for now, for the process, but in task 2s, in your speaking, and of course, the main purpose for you learning English is actually for your future studies. Right guys, let's move on. Right, so grammatical paraphrasing, one thing to do. Let's move on to the next picture, which is here. Right, so, the second picture. I'm going to have a drink because it's cold where I am, and this is hot. I like hot. Hot is good. I hope wherever you are right now, you're warmer than me. Here it's freezing. But actually in Cambridge, it's more freezing. Okay. Okay, so why am I showing this picture? What's special about it? It says pods harvested, white cocoa beans. 5 words. Just 5 words. OMG. Again, 5 words. That's not a lot. What can we do with 5 words? Well, another skill that I'd like you to think about is this. Okay, we have a stage, but one stage doesn't mean just one thing. A one stage may have more than one action. And that means that there may be more than one thing happening in the picture. If we can, and I've told you before, that if we cannot see it, we cannot write it. But on the other hand, if we can see it, we can write it. So let's try to write it. What do we say here? Well, we have a few things happening. The first thing, okay, and I'm going to actually make this picture up here, so I need some space. You're going to see some more of my terrible drawing skills. Again, I apologize. Okay, so let's do this. So the first thing we have is our pods just here. Okay, it's not an American football, it's a pod, I promise you. Okay. The next thing is we can see here that they're open, they're cut, and something's happened. So let's draw that in. Okay, so do that. Okay, and do this one. Oh, and yes, they are really horrible drawings. I'm so sorry. I'll do this quickly, and please don't talk about my drawing skills. I know they're bad. Okay, so that's the first thing that's happened, and this is the second thing that's happened, and there's a third thing. Okay, so the third thing is we have these white cocoa beads. They're coming out. So let's do this. Okay, right. Okay, and they're coming out here, and that's the third thing to do. Okay, so actually there are 3 things we can say about this, not 1 or 2. We have the word harvested, but there's more than just harvesting happening. We can see it. So what can we write? Well, the first thing we can say in the first picture is that the pods are harvested. And we're not copying it exactly. We put in the word are in here. Are comes from the verb to be, and like I said before, we use in the present tense. So harvested. Harvested is a pretty unique word, so let's not change it. We can use harvested, but we just added the grammar, made the grammar correct, and examiners are happy. So, as my beautiful son says, 3 years old, he's learning, good job, Daddy. So, good job, students. Right, on to the second step. Well, the second one is this. They must be opened, they're cut somehow. And we can say that. So we can say here, although it's not written, it's still shown there. So we could say here the pods are, we could say broken apart like this. Okay, we can say that they are maybe split open. Okay, we don't split close, we always split open something. Okay, or we could even say the pods are cut and opened. Okay, now a quick grammar point just here for anybody who's watching. Cut and split, they are irregular verbs, so when we do the passive tense they don't change. Okay, right, and so step one, the pods are harvested from the tree. Second one, they are cut, and we have the third step. And what's happening in the third step? Well, the question is, well, why do we cut it open? There must be a reason. And so we can say the word so, or we can say the expression in order to. Now, these are very important because when we're writing, we have to connect all our ideas together. And these ones here, these are linking phrases. But these linking phrases are not just any normal linking phrases. Okay, so shows the result of something, and in order to shows the purpose of something. And if you look at the diagram, you can see that we have these white cocoa beans. They clearly have to come out, and that's why we're doing it. So we can say here that these beans come out. We could use the words remove, or we could say extract, or we could say take out. But that's why we're doing it. That's the whole reason for us to cut it open, to take these white cocoa beans out. So now we can write this sentence. Okay, now remember, I said we have 5 words here. Well, can we improve in 5 words? Can we make it any longer? Let's find out. So I've got some space, so let's write it. Okay. So let's give the sentence. We say after. So after the pods are harvested. Harvested, okay, from the trees. And we say the trees because this is what happened. The trees are the trees that we mentioned before in the other paragraph. Using the links the two together so the reader knows it's the same trees. Okay. We say so they. So they are. Okay. Let's say they are. Let's say split open. So split open. That's our second step. Okay. And why do we do that? We use our linking phrase just there, in order to. So in order to, and we have here the word remove. So let's say the word remove. Remove the, okay, so cocoa beans. So cocoa beans like this. Okay. What about these cocoa beans? Well, we're told they are white. So which are white? Which are white? That's it. Good, white. Like this. Okay. So, remember we had 5 words. How many words do we have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. About 23 words. 23 words. So we had 5 words in the picture. We now have 23 words. Yay! I'm going to give myself another smile. Yeah, I think I get another smile for that. Okay, so what have we learned here? Well, going back to the main point. Okay, so I'm just going to edit my text a bit. Get some space back. Yep, that works. Okay, well, I don't want that. Right, Make it smaller. Okay, and again, you get all these notes in the download later in the screenshots. Okay. Okay, what's the point about this? Well, the main point about this is what I said at the very beginning of this part, this picture. Okay, let's go back, and I'll highlight it in big red pen to make sure you're clear about this. Okay, one stage may have more than one action. This very, 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 very important. Okay, so this is why you have to stop and think and organize before you write it. Okay, because if you're in test conditions and you're under stress and you've not practiced, there's the danger, the very real danger, unfortunately, that you may not see the extra steps, and then suddenly your writing may be shorter than it should be. So, okay, make sure you look carefully at these pictures. One stage, more than one thing. Okay, and also, if we're creating more steps inside, think about how you're going to link it together, using things such as so or in order to, as well as the relative clauses, is another great way to add information and join it together. Okay, all these things can impress the examiner quite a lot. Right, so grammatical paraphrasing, and one stage may have more than one action. What's next? Well, let's move on to this. Okay, let's get it a bit bigger. Okay, right. So, steps 3 and steps 4. Well, we still have not many words. Okay, so not as many words. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 words here. 7 words is still not very much. How can we write more? Okay, so, well, like I've told you, you cannot write what you cannot see. But what you can do is this. We call it visual information. If you can see it, you can write it. But now we are talking about a more difficult skill. This is not an easy skill. This is one that you do have to practice. And I've got to tell you, you've got to promise on your heart. If you're not sure about how to add this information in your process writing, don't do it. Please don't, because you don't want to, like I've said a few times now, you don't want to show the examiner something you don't know. Okay, remember this. So, I'll put in brackets here, tricky. Tricky, a lovely British word. It means difficult or not easy. Okay, but you can't really use it in academic writing. What visual information can we see here? Well, let's look at the first picture, step 3. Step 3, we can see that it's actually in a box. Box, or we can say container. Any of that is fine. Okay. What else can we see that we can see? Well, the box must be there before they put the white cocoa beans in. So we know that it must have been prepared. And we know also that you can see here, just underneath, these strange looking things are leaves, L-E-A-V-S. They're leaves at the bottom of the box. I don't know why. And you've got to promise me that in your writing you don't say why, because we don't know. Okay, but there are definitely leaves there. Okay. What about in picture number 4? In picture number 4, we can see that it's a tray. Okay, a tray is like this. Okay, a tray is like a box, but it's very, 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 very thin like this. Okay, so maybe some of you are planning to surprise your partners on Valentine's Day with some orange juice and toast, some romantic poem, okay, some flowers, and you'll carry everything in a tray into the bedroom or into the dining room or the kitchen or somewhere. Well, that's called a tray. Okay. This tray we know that it's flat, okay, which is obvious to say, but we can still say it's flat like this, like a line, and we know it's not very deep, so we say it's quite shallow. We can see these things, and this is why I said to you this is a bit more difficult. If we can't see it, then we shouldn't write about it. If we're not sure, then we don't put it, because like I said, you don't want to show the examiner something that you're not sure about. You're writing, you're planning your organisation, all of these things, you've got to be planned through first. Okay, so if it's in the picture, you can write about it. If it's not in the picture, don't say it. So we can now write another sentence. Okay, so the sentence we can write here, let's write, we can say the word next, like this. Okay, so these, okay, these, no, these, what is these? Well, we know that everything we're doing is about the white cocoa beans. Okay, but we don't want to repeat it, so don't repeat it. These means the cocoa beans. These is a lovely way of actually avoiding repeating these, those, it's, this, that. A simple way, but really effective. As the whole thing is about the cocoa beans, the reader, in this case the examiner, is really quite familiar about what it is that we're writing about. So don't repeat that main point, it's pretty obvious. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so these, okay, so next these, okay, so these are, so placed, okay, so into, let's say a box container, doesn't matter, so let's say into a box, okay, which has, okay, so which has been prepared. And how do we prepare it? Well, to get prepared to get something ready, and we're getting ready here, we say with leaves, so on the base, which means the bottom. This is the base of the bottom of something. Okay. Now, has been prepared is the perfect tense. It's the perfect passive tense here, in fact. Okay. And we use the perfect tense here in the passive form because we want to show that this has been done before. Okay. It's not happening right at that time, but it's happened at some point before, and it's emphasizing that this box has been prepared, we've got it ready, we've put the leaves on there at some point before we put the white cocoa beans on. Okay. So let's move on. Okay, so has prepared with leaves on the base. Now, why do we do this? Okay, because it says fermented, so we have to say that so that they can be so fermented. Okay, so that's the first picture done. Okay, and be fermented is also passive tense. Okay, okay, and then we put the word in before. Now, before is a linking word, and when we use the word before, then the next word will be a verb, and it must be a verb ing. So before being moved. Okay, so I'll just mark this up so it's easier. So before is our link between picture 1 and picture 2, and that's our ing. So this is picture 1, sorry. Okay, so that's step 3 here, and that's step 4 here. Before being moved. Okay, and we know where it's been moved to. Moved. Okay. So to a flat, shallow tray. So flat, shallow tray, and those ones we've done as well. A flat, shallow tray, so that we said so that before. So we're going to use another linking word here. To here's the purpose. Okay, to be dried. Flat, shallow. Okay, sorry, get my spelling right. Flat, shallow tray. To be dried in the sun. Okay, and you can see here we said spread in the sun to dry. Here you could say to be dried in the sun, so we've grammatically paraphrased it. Okay, we have all that visual information, those words. Okay, and I'll highlight those for you. So into a box, it's being prepared, there are leaves on there, there's a flat shallow tray to be moved. Okay, we have our linking phrases, we have our passive tense, and we've written all of that because of visual information. So like I said, if you can see it, you can write about it. Okay. We had our 7 words, but now how many words do we have? Well, I think, got a feeling it's more than 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Take a breath. 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. Oh my goodness, that's pretty good. Now 36 words. 36 words. I'm going to give myself another smile. Oh my gosh, so good. Okay. So 36 words come from 7 words. So grammatically paraphrasing something is the first thing we looked at. And then we looked at earlier in the video, if you missed it, if you tuned in, then you can go back and watch this. The second thing we looked at was that one picture, maybe a few things happening. And now we have here visual information. Visual information means that we can actually, if we can see it, then we can describe it. But we have to know the vocabulary for it. And if we're not sure, as I said before, don't say it, because we really don't want to show the examiner something we're not sure about. Okay. So, anything else? One more thing. One more thing for today's video, and this one is important. So, let's move it along. Okay, so we have this one here. The beans are roasted. Okay, let's put it here. Okay, so what can we do in this one? Well, we know there's a few things. We know it's beans. We know they're roasted. So we can say that we know they're beans. We know they are roasted. Roasted must means heated at a temperature. We know there's a temperature because it says 350 degrees C, so that's how heated. Okay, and in our IELTS writing, people often ask this. You can say either degrees C, or you can actually write degrees Celsius. Either one is fine. We don't mind which one it is. Both are okay. Okay, but question: is there any more we can say? I mean, there must be something else, because we've got 2 words. 2 words. We've got to say more than 2 words. Well, the final thing that we're going to look about today in this little YouTube video is this, and it's a difficult one again, but it can be very effective. We're called definitions. And definitions, it means essentially, what does the word mean? Now, I've said before that we can't add things that we can't see, but we also know that if we can see it, we can write about it, and we can explain it. And we can also, if we know what the word means, we can define it, we can explain what it means. And the word we're looking at here is the word roasted. That's actually a very important word. Okay, so we want to know about the definition of the word to roast. We have to look at this word because, well, the other one is beans, and I think by now we know what beans are, so we shouldn't define that. Okay. So roast is a word we can use. Maybe roast could tell us something. And if we just look down here, I've prepared it here for the moment. Okay. So this is what we find. This is from the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. Hopefully you've got a good dictionary. I always recommend my students to buy one. This one is great. It gives us a lot of definitions and examples. But why do we want to look at it? Well, it says roast. It's a verb. We have the British and the American pronunciation. Not so important today. Let's look at here. We're told to roast something is to cook food, especially meat. Well, that's true. Without liquid, because if we have liquid in something, it's usually boiling. In an oven or other fire, to be cooked in this way. Something there is actually very important. So when we roast something, and I'll highlight it says in an oven. In an oven. Now that matters because that is a location. Okay. We have 2 locations, or over a fire. Now if we look at the picture, we see a box. We'll go back in a second. The box must be an oven. It's not a fire, because a fire usually has flames. Like that kind of thing. I do that to my son. He thinks I'm strange. So we know that it's in an oven. So we got a location. So let's go back. Okay, and this is what we had before. Beans roasted 35 degrees. Now we know. We can say this. We can say it's, okay, we have a location. We can say it says in an oven, because the word roasted. So if we know the definition of a word, then we can write it. Don't spend 2 or 3 sentences writing this. In an oven is a very simple thing, simple definition to write, but it makes a big difference. And you're showing the examiner that you know these words, you know what they mean. Now you're explaining, you're showing a whole range of skills here. This is a really good one to do. We don't give yourself too much pressure. We don't really want a complex definition. That doesn't matter. Just a good, simple, quick definition has an amazing impact on your score. And something I know as a fact, wink, 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 a fact that examiners love to see. Okay, we love definitions. Okay, right, one more thing. Now, I'm going to put this into brackets because some people are not so confident about this, but we have time because it's roasted. Now, we don't know how much time it is. It could be it could be a second. It could be 20,000 million years. We don't know, but it must happen for some time. So whatever this process is of roasting, it takes time. It takes some time. Now, like I said, if you're not sure, if you don't feel confident about this, you don't have to write it. But you can if you want to, because these things do take time. We don't know, but if we say sometime, then it's a very safe way of saying that we don't know, but it must take some time. Okay. So we have much more information. We have all of this that we can now write into a sentence. And remember, when we actually started this particular step, this picture, we only had 2 words. Just 2. That's it, not 3 or 4, not 1, but 2 words. So now we can actually make it much longer. Okay. So let's talk about it. Let's actually make this sentence for you. Okay. And okay, need some space. Where can I do it? Okay, I can do it there. Yep, that's good. Right. Remember, this is all streamed in HD quality, so you can zoom in and see it. Hopefully, you'll see all the detail. But like I said, after we finish, if you're very, very patient, 10 minutes patient is good, then we'll provide you with screenshots of all of this so you can look at it again at your own leisure. Okay, so let's write the sentence. And okay, so we can say that they, again, the beans. We're not going to say beans, 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 just say they. So they are placed, so in an oven, so we now know it's an oven. Okay. And heated, okay, so heated at a temperature of 350 degrees C. That's quite hot. Okay, for a period of time. For a period of time, it means some time. That's it. Okay. So 2 words. How many words now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that 6? Yep. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 words. So from 2 words to 17 words. Yay! Another smile. Lots of smiles. Lots of smiles. It must be Valentine's Day. Yep. Smiles. Happiness. Good. Right. So what have we covered? We've covered, first thing, doing grammatical paraphrasing, keeping the words, changing the same structure. We've taken one step and found many actions inside it. We have looked at visual information, looking at the picture, describing what's in the picture, but be careful, remember, and also definitions, okay, defining what the word means. So here, for example, we chose the word to roast, okay. All of this can actually help the writing become much longer. And on top of that, we're using the passive tense. So maybe some of you can actually understand you know, why some people hate processes and why they love them. I personally love processes. My reason, because I'm a lazy teacher, apparently, is that you don't choose. You don't choose which steps. You have to write every step. So that makes it, for many people, including myself, much easier. Okay, guys? So, let's move on. And, okay, so let's move on. Let's move on to the actual, okay, so zoom out, okay. So, to remind ourselves, this is what it was when we started. Okay, just like this. And in this example demonstration, we've looked at step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and step 8. Okay? And in step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8, we found already, just so you know, about 145 words, which is great. Okay, so the words are there. It doesn't matter whether you've got 3 pictures or 6 or, in this case, 10. 10 is great, of course, but the words are available. The skills are there. You have to show the examiner those skills, because those skills, those ways of handling the vocabulary, looking carefully, analysing it, breaking things into more steps, is so important for, you know, higher education studies. Okay, right, so that's the chart, that's the process. What about the model? Let's have a look. I want to just quickly look at the first sentence of this. Okay, looks like that. Okay, because all processes have the same thing, and it's the same as writing task 1 for a bar chart or a line chart. Okay, your introduction is going to be just 1 sentence. Okay, like with a bar chart, line chart, 1 sentence. This one also 1 sentence. You don't want to spend too much time writing introductions. They need to be done quickly because you have the body paragraphs to do later. So, 1 sentence. And in this example here, which says the process shown illustrates the major steps. We said the major steps. You could say 10 steps if you wanted. You don't have to. And these steps are required in the production of liquid chocolate. Now, liquid chocolate, that was the last step, step number 10. From a raw vegetative state, this is me showing off some vocabulary, that's our first step. So, the liquid chocolate, that's our last step. And the raw vegetative state, that's our first. And we're making something from something else. Okay, so that's our introduction, and it's an overview for the entire chart. That's all we need to do. Okay, so let's actually look at the writing itself. So this is an example. It has a bit more detail, of course, than what you've seen in the steps we've gone through, but that's fine. It's available to look at later. Things that we should understand about this. Because it is a process, we have to use certain words. These words are called sequence words. This begins means first. Then we say after. Then we say then. Then before with the ing. Following this and subsequently. And a quick point is subsequently. Subsequently is okay. Whatever you do, do not, absolutely do not write the word consequently. Consequently is not a step. Consequently means the same as so or thus. Okay, a lot of people get this wrong. So subsequently is fine, consequently not so good. In the next paragraph we have the word when, once, and finally. Okay, so again, more steps. So sequence words. What do we know about sequence words? Okay, so the key thing here is don't repeat them. And I know this is tough, and I know that some of you are going to find problems with this, but if you said the word next, don't say it again. If you say then, don't say it again. Here, for those who are watching, look at these sequence words. Look at how they're working. If you learn these, then this is all you need to know for a process. I don't know many processes that have more than 10 steps, for example. Okay? Inside our writing, we also have our linking phrases. So, the words to, we have in order to, as this. And then we have so that, so and that in the next paragraph, and which results in. So these are linking phrases. And to, for example, is telling us a purpose. In order to is also telling us a purpose. As this, okay, this is given a reason. Okay, so that is given a result. And also which results in, obviously, is giving us another result. Okay. Inside we have our structure, we have our two body paragraphs as mentioned at the start of this. Okay, move across. So this one, draw a black line. This is body paragraph 1, which is happening outside. And this one, body paragraph 2, which is happening inside. So we have our organization as well. Okay. We have inside our writing, and I know this take a bit of time, but we have many examples of the passive tense. Things like are harvested, are typically grown, okay, have been removed, they are broken apart, which are extracted inside, okay, has been prepared. Remember the box with the leaves on it, okay. So being spread out is the continuous passive tense, okay. And then we have here, they are placed, okay, and then loaded, that's also passive tense. Into the next paragraph, we say they are removed and placed, has been heated, they have been taken out. See, I use a lot of the perfect tense here. They are put. Put is an irregular verb, it doesn't change. Can be removed is our passive tense. Okay, is pressed is another one. So you see that the passive tense, oh wow, so many of these examples, really important. Just remember that everything you've learned in active tense, you need to kind of learn again in passive tense. And like I've said, if you're not sure, then ask us. We can certainly help you with grammar, and I promise we're trying to make it interesting as well. But it does matter. I can't stress this enough. It really does matter at all. Okay? So, do we have a conclusion? This is often a question I get asked that a lot. There is, you see, there's a space at the bottom. No conclusion. No conclusion. That sounds a bit strange. Why no conclusion? Well, the advice, official advice, is it's not actually necessary. If you want to include a conclusion, you can do that. But you need to remember something. It's a writing task 1. It's 20 minutes. It's about 150 to 180 words. This example you're looking at now, this is actually 200 words. This is a long example. We can say something one time, and we should only really say it one time. Don't say it twice or 3 times or 4 times, because you're repeating. The question is, if you put something into your conclusion, is it going to say something which you haven't said before? We know that we're making liquid chocolate. We know that this is 10 steps. We know that it starts with the cocoa, these red pods, these ripe red pods. So if we put a conclusion, it's only going to say basically what the introduction says. So maybe it's not necessary. Examiners are very, very cautious about this, because when they say conclusion, they're going to make sure that it doesn't repeat what you said before. So if you want to do a conclusion, that's fine. I said here it's not necessary, but if you do it, my advice here is make sure, okay, you don't copy what's said before. So what's said before? There. So make sure, okay, try and say it another way if you can, but if you don't think that you can, that's really okay. That's fine. Okay. Processes don't often need conclusions, so it's not really a big deal in this case. But if you do it, don't kind of repeat exactly what you said before, because if you repeat exactly what you said before, the examiners will give that a penalty, and they will actually reduce the number of words. They can reduce your total, and that can change a 7 to a 6.5 or a 7.5 to a 7, and these are quite big things. Okay, so think about this, and if you're not sure, don't worry about it. Okay. So guys, that's passive. That's the process. these are the major points which I really hope, I really hope that they can help you a lot. Okay, these are the things I teach in the classroom, and these are the skills which a lot of students do very well with. And I hope for you it also works out. Okay. Remember the key points that we've covered in here. Okay, and I'll put them just here, just to remind everybody. Okay, so remember to practice your passive tense, passive or active. Understand how you can go between the two, passive tense, active tense. Also, think about, practice your grammatical paraphrases. So grammatical paraphrasing. This is, that's it. This is a very nice skill to have. Is it red pods which are ripe? Is it ripe pods which are red? Okay, how do we do that, for example? Think about, so one stage could be more than one action. More than one action, that matters a lot as well. Think about here visual information. If you can see it, you can write it, but like I've said before, be very, very careful about this, because you don't want to show the examiner something you're not sure about, and you could make mistakes. But visual information is perfectly possible, and it's an accepted way of making your writing longer. Okay. Also, visual information here is, last thing today is dictionary definitions. Okay, again, put definitions, explain what the word means. Make sure you know the definition, and also make sure that it's short and it's to the point. Okay, don't make it too long, and make sure that if you do a definition, it's right, of course, as well. Okay, just had another question here. Okay, from Amir. Hi, Amir. Another question. Okay, it's actually, so he says here, if it's necessary to repeat something in the conclusion to achieve 150 words, what is your opinion? It's actually a really, really good question. And let's give you some advice about this. I've had, on quite a few occasions now, I've had students that have come to me on the Monday after the exam being a little bit upset, and me being a little bit confused. And the reason I'm confused is that these people are really good writers. And I said, well, you're great writers. Did you not finish your writing task 1, your task 2? And they say, no, I didn't. And they panic a bit. And I say to them, well, don't worry. And the reason I say don't worry is the examiners are humans. Strange thing, but true to say. They know if you're a good writer. They're not going, if your writing is less than 150 words, you may not get much reduction in your score. They want to see your good writing, and if it's 2 or 3 words, I think it's about 5% shorter than the total. 5 to 10? No, it's 5%. 5%. If it's 5% shorter than it should be, there should be no impact on your score. So, if you're finding that you're getting to the end of a process and you're saying, well, I want to write something, should I repeat what I said before? It's up to you. Okay. Examiners are going to be very aware that you're repeating something you said maybe 3 paragraphs ago, 2 paragraphs ago. Okay. My advice is to you about this is that if you really want to write a conclusion, try to make sure that if you have to use the same words, do the grammatical paraphrasing. Try to use those words another way. Okay. I've had a lot of students that have not finished their task 1, task 2 because the conclusion's not been finished, but they've got very high scores. So it's shown that examiners do appreciate good quality writing. They really do. They really do care about their grammar. And the grammar, the structure, the organization, the logic, the skills that you're trying to demonstrate. These things have much more impact. If you didn't get exactly 150 words, it's not the worst thing in the world. Okay? But I'm pretty confident also that if you try these things like the grammatical paraphrasing and finding many pictures, many parts in one step, and visual information definitions, I'm pretty confident that 150 words should be no problem at all. I always advise my students to aim for about 180 words, 160, 180, which they often do achieve with practice. So Amir, this is what I suggest to you as well. Okay. Hopefully 150 words won't be a problem. The main point you need to consider, and this is a bit more general, this is for everybody here, is that if you're practicing for future studies at university, you're going to be writing thousands and thousands and thousands of words. And I would argue that you're going to be actually, 150 words is not very much, so you should always be aiming to do more. In the exam, also, you want to be comfortable. You want to know that you're doing enough words. You don't want to finish and then worry that it's too short and count all the words, because that takes time. So I'd recommend that you try to focus on the strategy, more practice if you can, to increase that, to find where you can say more so the situation never happens. If a writing is too short, and this is for everybody again, and you have lots of grammar mistakes and spelling mistakes and other things as well, then the fact that it's too short and you have these other mistakes is going to have a much more significant impact. Hopefully that's obvious. And like I've said to many of my students in class, and they're fairly sick of me saying this, but I do say it often, it's really a case of quality, not quantity. Get the quality right. Okay, take time. A good question that actually was asked to me in class, and one I do often to mention in class, is this. In a writing task 1 or task 2, let's say task 1, and you have 4 minutes left before you have to change. Do you spend 4 minutes writing a conclusion, or do you spend the 4 minutes checking your grammar and your spelling? The question is, which one is going to have a bigger impact on your score? The answer is, well, you should check your grammar and your spelling, because if you go ahead and write the conclusion in that 4 minutes, there may be still grammar mistakes in the spelling, in the structure in your conclusion, and also in your body paragraphs before. So the conclusion you're writing in that 4 minutes may show yet more mistakes. However, if you stop and say, okay, time management, maybe not so good, but I'm going to check my grammar and spelling. And you go back to the top, you check your grammar, your spelling. That could make a big difference. That could make a 5.5 a 6, a 6.5 a 7. So we would always recommend quality rather than quantity. Okay, but hopefully, Amir, that answers your question. It's not always a simple answer. Okay, I'm sorry to say. My main advice for you is that the first thing, number one step, get above the 150. Get into 170 words. Okay, by using hopefully some of the skills that you've learned from today's stream. Okay, hopefully that works. Okay, but leave comments, or you can email us. We've got contact details, and let us know what happens. Okay, Mia. So thanks for the question. Hopefully I answered it. Let me know if I haven't. Okay, because I'm still looking at the chat. The very last thing I want to just remind people about is this last one. These are the instructions for a writing task 1. And the question doesn't matter. The instructions for task 1 are always the same. Thanks, Amir. Really happy to help you. Stay in touch. We'll do more stuff, and never, and this is for all of you, including Amir, never be frightened to ask a question. Okay, that every question is important. Teachers, like myself, we love questions because it means you're thinking about it. Okay, so always ask those. Great stuff. Back to this, the instructions. The instructions matter, and I just want to stress again to everybody, because this is the most common mistake I see in process writing. If you cannot see it, you cannot write it. Remember this. Can't see it, can't write it. Can't see it, can't write it. Any kind of task 1, and this includes the maps we will look at in the future, and the charts we've looked at before, you're always reporting. It's such an important skill. For those of you who are doing the test, at least going off to university, wherever the UK or USA or wherever, you have to learn to be objective. I can see it, I can write about it. That's objective. If I cannot see it, and I don't know why it's happening, I should not say it. And that matters for me. That's really, really important. That's something that you guys are going to have to take off to university, or You know, maybe you're not. Maybe you're studying IELTS for migration purposes. Okay, maybe you're going to use the language after in a job. I'm not sure what, but in the future, all of that matters. Okay, so guys, thank you very much. Many apologies if you watched the stream earlier today. It was a complete disaster. The internet failed. There were too many boyfriends and girlfriends ordering their Valentine's gifts or something. So really sorry about that. But hopefully I've made it worthwhile and it's been better the second time. You know, I've been practicing. If you have any questions, I'm looking at the chat right now. I will look at the chat for a few more moments. Got a question? Type it in quickly. Remember to stay in touch. Okay, stay in touch and contact us by any of our contact details. Okay. Okay, we have contact at cambridgeeap.com. We go through the website. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Okay, we're very connected. I mean, my wife is really amazed that I'm so connected. Our school is so connected, considering I'm such an old man. True. Okay, and if you're interested, if you think we can help you, these YouTube broadcasts, we cover important, fundamental, basic information, but of course there are more things to do. If you want help, then do get in touch. All the clients that come to us, we do a free assessment, we give them a free demonstration class. You can be anywhere in the world. I absolutely promise you that we can do this anywhere, and it's perfect, it's great. We get so many good feedback about this. But yeah, lovely to see you all, guys. Thank you for the question. Okay, so for all those in the chat, thanks for staying with me and being patient. That's been fantastic. Okay, Amir says the time for the next section. Well, it should be 11:30 GMT, and I'll put it into the about part of our description. But it's every Sunday 11:30 UK time. So I'm not sure where that is where you are. Right now, I'm not exactly in the UK because I said I'm here with my wife because we're going to give birth to my son. Okay, but we are 8 hours in front. So we always focus on UK time, and as I say, 11:30 GMT time. And I'm not sure where that is where you are, but put it in your diaries. Don't worry about it. If you subscribe, then the moment we start broadcasting, you'll get an email saying that we're broadcasting. Amir, if you missed the section, that's fine. It's always recorded and kept on there for you to catch up on. Okay. So guys, thank you very much. Lovely to see you, and I hope you have a really good February the 14th. Remember, Valentine's Day, say thank you to, hey, crazy idea. You could even give a Valentine's flower to your mum, to your dad, because as a parent, I love my son so incredibly much. And I think the best thing maybe is to say, Mum, Dad, I love you. Okay, guys. So, hit the subscribe, hit the like. Got any comments, please let us know about it. Look forward to seeing you at 11:30 GMT next Sunday. In the meantime, keep on practicing, keep up the great work. We're so proud of you. And thank you for sharing some time with us today. Okay. Take care, all of you, and be safe.